Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, based on whatever time zones you're watching us on. Good to have you all here and really, really excited to talk about this interesting talk that I have with Ross Swan today. He is an amazing person that I got in touch with, and he drives an organization called Soul Inspired Leadership, and a beautiful person who has been into the corporate for also many, many years. He's been a CEO of multiple organizations and is based out of Singapore. And we're here today to talk about, and by the way, he has an amazing podcast that he drives, which is on soul inspired leadership.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're going to talk more about that in the coming discussions that we have with Ross today.
Yep.
Um, Over to you, Ross. We have a lot of questions for you. And let us start with first knowing a little more about you, how your life journey has been, and how did you progress into being what you're doing right now?
Yeah, well, that could be a long answer, Corinne. A very long answer. Look, in short, I use the phrase that everyone uses: "Life's a journey," and it is a journey, and if you're taking things out of life and learning from life, it leads you to where you are now. Well, everything you do leads you to where you are now, and but at points of your life, it's your choice to be led in the right direction or lead yourself into the wrong direction. And that's people's choices, right? So it started out that primarily enjoyable childhood and all those sorts of things, where I mainly went to school to socialise, not to actually study that much, and play cricket. That's all I did, right? That's what I did at school. So, but at the end of the day, and the reason why I say that is because at that point I had no desire to be anything particularly. I didn't grow up thinking I want to be an accountant, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, all those types of things children tend to think of, very descriptive sort of job functions. But see, I couldn't at the age of 10 say I want to grow up and I'm going to be an executive coach on leadership. And that was never heard of. So there's no way in the world I could be thinking of that. And in today's day and age, that's the situation for most youth, because job functions and roles change substantially, that you don't grow up thinking about something. So all that aside, I had no major motivator so that's why I went to school to socialise. I learned things. I did all right, I suppose, but nothing dramatic. So then I went into corporate life, not because that was the job I wanted to do, but my parents said, go and get a job in the bank, Ross, because it's stable. And it does teach you good grounding and common sense in the fact of financial situation. Like, it just teaches you basic stuff. So I joined the bank, and I did get a lot out of it. Then I went in further into broader financial services and grew up to where I was running regions in funds management to financial advisory, and I still work today consulting to some banks, assessing their private bankers. Because that's where I've come from. And I guess at some point along there, I was asking myself, what am I going to be doing? What actually, I don't want to be doing this all my life, because I don't connect with it. I enjoy managing leading people, but the actual financial services stuff, it's okay, but it's not inspiring me to do anything great, right? So then I decided to leave and go out coaching, because the thing that when I started to analyse myself, what are my likes and dislikes, and a lot of my likes was leading people and being connected with people. The dislikes is when you're working for a manager who's not so good, manager by name only. And so I started to look at that, and I thought, well, if I could go out and coach or help leaders be better leaders, because what I could see is that how much a positive effect on someone's life and their family at home a good leader has, because people enjoying being at work, they're enjoying being connected with work, they take that enjoyment home usually, right? Not every time, but most times that's taken home. Also, if they're not enjoying work, they tend to go home and quite often take it out on the family.
Yes.
Frustration, all that type of thing. So I felt now I'm starting to get a bit of a desire that's something I can get inspired about.
Mm.
Is how do I help people be better leaders? And that's how it started. And when I left corporate life, I did some extra study, master's study, just to try and learn as much as I can on the more process or theoretical side of different aspects of performance management, etc. And then just moved into it and just started knocking on doors and developing myself and, and gradually build up to where I am now. So
Interesting.
that's a shortened version, but it's still a long answer, right?
No, it gives us a lot of insight into how you, chose to do what you did. And as you rightly mentioned, really powerful statements that you made right now, where you talked about that, it's not, you don't know at the start of your journey that where are you going to go into. It's just that you continue to learn from those things that are happening in your life, and you keep going ahead. You
Yeah.
keep picking up those things. So I'm sure there are some incidences or ideas that happened, to you while you were progressing in that journey, and you reached where you are right now. And I'm sure you.
Yeah, yeah. And I get asked that a lot, and and I'll probably say this a couple of times. I'm about to release a self-leadership training program, which is actually a program I've done online now. It's going to be available for people to buy and download and listen to their own leisure. And that's some of the things I say. Some people are lucky that they, at the younger stage of their life, they have a very clear picture, because it's something that I want to be a doctor. Well, we know about doctors, right? So there's a clearer picture, for example. But the people who don't shouldn't be worried. That's what I'm getting at.
Mm,
Don't think I must know because my friend is so focused because they want to be a doctor, they want to be this, they want to be that, and I don't want to. I don't know what I want to be.
mm,
Just chill and look, as you said a minute ago. You look for signs. You don't go around looking everywhere, looking under mats and behind doors, but just have your antennas up.
yeah.
And start to and ask yourself. So what am I enjoying today? What I didn't enjoy, and over time you start to get a feeling of where you're heading, or little things will pop up and
Yeah.
give you messages. Just be attuned to it.
Yeah, so interesting. And that actually brings me to my next question that I wanted to ask is about, we all talk about this purpose driven life and these concepts. Um, it's more like a lot of people come to me also and ask, being in the HR field for so many years,
Yep.
and being, in the career, helping people with their careers, they ask me these questions, I don't know what my purpose of my life is, or how do I go about it. What are your insights on that? Do you really feel people should like scout for their purpose, or it just happens and comes to you?
It's it's probably a bit of both. I
Yeah.
mean, like some people feel as though they've got to scout for everything, right? They've got to go looking because it's just in their nature. They can't sit still. They've got to plan in advance. Well, if you've got to scout, go looking for things that you feel good about.
Hmm.
It's like having, you're flipping through a magazine and you see pictures and you look at a picture for no other reason. It could be an ad. The
Hmm.
picture looks good. You get a good feeling, oh, that's a nice, and what that could be doing is telling you a message that you'd like to be in that picture.
Hmm.
Not modeling the nice outfit that the picture's doing, but what it stands for, the surroundings, or like you see a picture of someone on stage speaking and you think, that feels good. Quite often it's telling you maybe you'd like to be doing that. It's not set in concrete, but it's a combination of a lot of things. So
Hmm.
in my training, I get people to just cut out pictures that they feel comfortable with, and
Hmm.
put it to a side, and they start to build up a bit of a picture of themselves.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if they've got to analyze it for 10 minutes, do I cut this out or I don't cut it out? You know what I mean? As soon as you see it, you go, yeah, well, that looks good. Cut that out, put it there.
Wow. So make your own picture. It's like that.
And you can build up things, right? So that's scouting for it. Other people just wait and look around and observe and
Yeah.
see what they like and what they don't. It's just a matter of touch and
and
feel
make
and
it
experience it.
a much more easy process for yourself, and you just flow with things as things are coming, make them happen for you. And I think that's what would be the keys, what you're talking about
Yeah,
also.
that's right. Exactly right.
So very
So true.
interesting. So tell us a little more about, when you coach so many leaders, you're an executive coach, you coach so many leaders. What is leadership for you? If you have to define that, I'm sure there's a difference between managers and leaders. And when we talk about leadership, what does it signify to you? And how do you coach? What do you coach people when they come to you about this concept?
Okay. Well, first thing, not all managers are leaders, but all leaders are managers. Except when I say leaders, you can be leading. You can just be leading yourself. That's self-leadership. But
Hmm.
when you do that, you have the capacity to manage things because you're in control of yourself and
Yes.
you're leading yourself in the right direction. But what I look for in leadership, and I mean, there's a couple of key points, and we could talk about all sorts of things. They've got to be communicators. They've got to be this. There are all these sorts of things. But to cut it short is they've got to have integrity. They've got to, so they earn trust. But to earn trust, you must trust yourself,
Yeah, so
right?
interesting.
So it all comes back to yourself.
Hmm.
All good leaders can lead themselves first. If they don't, they won't be able to lead anyone. If you
Hmm.
can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. So
Hmm.
the first thing is I start with myself, and that's why I've developed this training because you've got to start with yourself. It's the
Hmm.
only way it works, right? So then you start to lead yourself. Therefore, you got the discipline to lead yourself. You can understand direction and visions, and so therefore you can impart those types of things because now you understand yourself. You now know what helps people tick, so
Hmm.
you can actually connect with them to do the same thing. Because in essence, the leaders who are managers as well
Hmm.
basically get things done through people.
Hmm.
So your focus is on people.
Yes.
And the other things where you can have some good self leaders, but don't have no interest in leading others.
Hmm.
And I've had one or two I've coached where they've looked at me in the eye and said, I don't even like doing this. And I said, oh, I can see why, right? And it's manifesting in your behaviors,
Ah,
right? Very good at self leadership themselves, but what they lack is they lack the enjoyment or the
hmm.
ability to deal with the ambiguity of people
Hmm.
because people aren't black and white.
Hmm.
They're grey. It's all ambiguous.
Yes.
Nothing's set in concrete anyway. They're ambiguous. They could do something set in concrete today and absolutely walk in quicksand tomorrow, and you go, hey, why are they doing that? What to change, right? See, and unless you're comfortable with that, then you're not going to be a good leader, right? You've got to understand that,
So would it
and you've
be
got to understand yourself that
hmm.
you are ambiguous, right?
Hmm. So would it be right to say that there is one stage is where one is a manager, the other stage is when somebody is a leader, which means that they might be good with self leadership, but a good leader is actually aware of the impact they are having on other people,
That's
and
true.
and how other people are also developing, and that's what a good leader is all about.
Yeah, you've got to be aware of the impact. Well, the same thing if you're not leading other people. As a good self leader, you've got to be aware of the impact you're having on people as well. It's not as though this is just for my staff, but for
Hmm.
other people who don't really have an interest in managing staff per
Hmm.
se, you've got to be aware of the impact you're having on your spouse, your children, your family, like
Hmm.
everyone around you. You've got to be aware of the impact. And that's how you have the discipline to create the positive impact.
Hmm.
And see, there again, it's your choice. You could choose to say, well, I'm going to have a negative impact.
Hmm.
Well, if you want to do that, then off you go then. It won't be a happy life
Hmm.
because people will reflect what you're doing to them. They'll reflect it and you'll get it back, right?
Hmm.
So you won't have a very happy life, a very, very argumentative and unhappy life, really.
Hmm.
But if you have a positive mindset, then people will naturally progress and have a positive mindset with you,
Yeah.
which is a secret to leadership.
Yeah.
You
And
want
so,
people with positive mindsets. Yeah.
yes. So what? So I'm pretty attracted to this concept that you talk about, which is soul inspired leadership, and that's what kind of got me keen to get introduced
Okay.
and talk about that also. So share more with me about that, and also our viewers and listeners are also would be interested to know about what is it all about.
Well, to me, like I was often told that ego is not having an ego is not that good, right? People are egotistical. To me, that's their outer ego. I call it outer ego and inner ego.
Mm-hmm.
The outer ego is when you live life in your headspace, in your head, and that what that means is I'm trying to compare myself with someone else. I'm better than they are, or they're better than me, or whatever. You're in this world of comparing yourself with everyone else and everything that happens. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one, and that doesn't provide good leadership at all, because you're volatile. Because whatever you determine the comparison is today reflects in your behaviour and how you react to it. So you're walking around reacting to things.
Mm-hmm.
In your inner ego, and ego, why I say inner ego is because you need to have a healthy self-esteem. You need to believe in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
in what you can achieve and what you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
that gives you consistency.
Yeah.
And see, I mean, you think back of some of the people who work for Karina, and some of them are very volatile. One day they're, oh, very nice, patting you on the back, saying, good job. Next day they're yelling at you. That's because they're dealing in their headspace. It's whatever's happening in their head
Mm-hmm.
reflects in what they do that day. But when you deal with the inner self, it's more like you're more at peace and more calm, more consistent, more
Mm-hmm.
balanced. I mean, sure, we'll all have blow ups at times and we get tested, but generally speaking, we're more balanced and consistent. Doesn't matter what's happening around, you need that consistency that someone can rely on. So given these current times, the
Mm-hmm.
last thing you want is leaders, bosses starting to panic and they're going all over the place. Staff don't want that. They want stability. They want balanced, right? So they need to be told, like things, and helped, encouraged, all these things, as well as advised as to where that they should be doing better, all those types of things. So they need to be coached with good quality feedback, etc. And the list goes on.
And in
But
this,
soul inspired means dealing within. So it's you have this inner belief, and then it manifests out. So good leaders lead from within to lead out. It's
wow.
not the other way around. Now I'll give you an example of an Olympic athlete. Whenever you see someone, they might come. Let's say they make the Olympic 100-meter final, but they come last. They
Mm.
interview them, and all they say is, "I've done my PB. I've done my personal best." See, they're competing with themselves. They don't care about anyone else. If if they do the best they can do with themselves, they're happy. And if that means they win it or they lose it, that's not the end game. They
Mm.
don't start off running by looking at everyone else going, oh, I've got to beat him, got to beat him, got to beat it. It's I've got to beat my time. I've got to strive to beat the best time, my best time. And
Mm.
it may win me a medal or it may not. But
Mm.
hey, all I can do is be better than what I was yesterday. And
Mm.
so all the Olympic athletes, because they're the elite, will all tell you that. They don't say I go out there to compete with others. I go out there to improve my times
Mm.
and do what I've got to do. If you're in a team, you get coached to do what you've got to do, your job in that team. Not
Mm.
worry about anyone else, your job.
Yeah, and I think this is a quality which can be developed. This is something which each person, if they become aware of what their behaviors are,
Yep.
and and they built up on that and create a positive mindset. I think this is a quality which all of us can learn.
You can learn it. It and there's probably some people out there who haven't learned it go, yeah, I know that. But it comes back to have you the discipline to
Yeah,
do it? It's all
yeah.
discipline. It's
So
all
I think,
discipline. There's
I
nothing
think,
secret about this.
yeah,
It's just the discipline to do it. And that comes from your desire
yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, so it's like knowing something is one thing, but doing something is some another thing.
It's right. It's like we'd all like to run the Olympic final, but it's the damn discipline to train and train and train and get there, right? And but people go, oh no, I'd love to run a marathon, but no. It's that they don't have the motivation to give them the discipline to go to do it.
Hmm. Wow, I'm just loving this conversation, and this is so awesome. Ross, I feel you have so much of insights to talk about this
Thank
leadership,
you, Karina.
inspired leadership.
It's
And
my love.
would you tell us how did you learn all of this? Any favorite teachers that you have, or any life experiences which gave you so much of amazing insights that you have?
Um, when they people often, I often get asked, yeah, who is the biggest influence? I say everyone. See, you learn from everything and everyone. Now, sure, there's some people like my former boss before I left corporate life was a good influence, but for what I learned at that point, because that's when I was working for a really good boss who really encouraged me and worked with me, right? And there came and therefore that started me to think about what my next journey is. And he encouraged me. He encouraged me to do the study, even though it had nothing to do with my job. He was encouraging me to do it because he could see that's where I was going to end up. And he gave me internally some work to do, little projects to do, side projects in coaching to sort out some of his people problems around Australia. He'd send me off and I'd do it, right? So I'd report he was the general manager in charge of Australia. I reported on, so I was in charge of a region. But I'd go off and do these things for him. So that was a big influence. But at the end of the day, everyone influences you. The people who you consider not so good and don't like to be with, that influences you because then you start to learn what not to be doing. See, it's so then that's when you're understanding the impact of your behaviours because you're feeling and the impact of other people's behaviours and what that has on you. So what do they do that you're not so encouraged by, or what do they do that you are encouraged? So this is what you're learning. Now, if you say, now I'm getting a good checklist of how I'm going to live my life. So I've just got to live that checklist because I want to be that person that has that impact because I want to be described that way or whatever you want to do, right? How do you want to be described? Then go and live it.
So interesting. And I think for all of us who have been able to move ahead and create a successful, leadership for people to be inspired from, I would say all of them have had coaches in their lives, people that they've learned from around them and have had coaches also. So I think that's a very interesting learning that I personally have had.
Yeah,
Then I was also stuck. I felt that having a coach who could guide me through that entire feeling of from
yeah.
being stuck to being feeling unleashed. I think I wanted that guidance, and I got it in the form of a coach.
Yeah, and as I said, some people have an official coach,
Yes.
others unofficial. They're just people helping out when you've asked them to help. Generally speaking, most people, if you ask the right way, will help, generally speaking, right? And there's a lot of people that you mentor, you admire someone from a distance. So but what you're taking out of it, what behaviours do I admire? So then what have I got to do to have that same impact as that person's having on me, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the key when you ask about who influences you. Everyone does. It's just got to take the bits. Some are more powerful than others, but you just got to take the bits and pieces from where you see it and keep your eyes and ears open. Have your antennas up, looking. Not go physically looking, but it's there. Just connect with the world is what I'm saying. Don't live like a hermit. Connect with the world and you'll find it or it'll find you.
Yes, so true. That's a very interesting statement. You'll find it. Just kind of go out and connect with people. There's so much to learn from other people around.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
yeah, and so that brings me to another thought that I have here. One of the things that have impacted me is, of course, coaching. Um, Another question that I have for you is that there are a lot of people from the corporate who reach out to you for coaching. Um, how do you go about it? Is there a coaching program that you drive or a training that you do through which this impact is created?
Um, there are, sorry, dry throat. Yes, there is some training I do. And quite often it's when you deal with corporates, it's you might do some leadership training internally, but more to the point, it's just coaching individually, one-on-one. I finished a project recently where I was coaching in a large global, probably 30 probably close to 40 executives, or senior executives are in charge of quite large, substantial parts of the business, just one-on-one. And there again, I don't have something that, step one, you do this, step two, you do this, step three, you do this. The first part is connecting with people and trying to ascertain exactly what they're trying to achieve. So some of these things we're talking about now, I had that conversation. Like what legacy do you want to leave here as a leader? Or if forget the legacy, if I walk out there and interview some of your staff and your colleagues, which I usually do, I interview and get feedback. What do you want them to be saying to me? So, and then shut up and listen. And some people have got to think for a while, thinking, because they're actually analysing themselves, thinking, I don't think anyone's going to say that at the moment.
Yeah.
Or others say, yeah, I want to be saying this, that, and the other. So then you're zeroing it in, because the key is to work on 3 or 4 key things that they've got to say and do that actually starts to impact where people start to describe you that way. And to me, that's in essence where it starts. See, that's back to that self-leadership. What have I got to do to create an impact that I want?
So would there be any 2, 3 questions you would like to leave for our audience and viewers to reflect on when they're listening to this, and maybe to kind of do some self-reflection? So one of them I hear is legacy. What about any more questions or insights that you might have for them?
Well, like it's legacy, or how to me the most powerful is if how do you want to be described by your friends? How do you want to be described by your siblings or your like close family or extended family? How do you want to be described by your work colleagues? So whatever group of people, then write down how you want to be described. It doesn't have to be a 30-page document, just a few paragraphs or just a few bullet points. It could be 5 or 6 bullet points. Then look at them and see if there's any common denominator. Generally there is. It's very rarely that I want to be described as this and something totally different there. They're pretty similar. Then just look at that and say, now what have I got to do personally for my family to describe me this way? And the one thing caveat I put on that, if you want to put down that, Ross is the perfect brother, and say, that's probably not what you should be putting, right? In a way, but you've got to define what perfect means. See, so you can put big picture words, but you need to define what that means, because your brain can't put a behaviour in to be perfect. Otherwise, you become a martyr. You're doing everything your brother wants me to do, I'll be doing. So you'll say, oh, he's perfect, but I can't be doing everything he wants me to do, because I've got to do things for other people. So I've got to balance it, right? So what I'm saying is, when you put these descriptors down, put them down as behaviours or the impact they have. Perfect's not an impact, it's just a descriptor.
Yes.
So you need to either define the descriptor or the impact. So the key to me is better on the impact. The impact my brother has on me. Not that he's perfect, but when when I've got problems, he's there for me when I have some serious problems, or whatever it is. That to me is more powerful.
I know. I mean, I did a very similar exercise with my family and friends, and I asked them about, okay, how do you describe me, and what do you think I have qualities? What qualities do I have, and are there any things that you feel any habits, etc., that you know of, which you think I should improve on? And I got such deep insights into it. Yes, some of them also said, oh, you're perfect, you're an awesome, I love you. But
yeah. And see that's key. You need to go a step further.
yes,
You need to know what you're doing for them to say perfect. And see, perfect could be you do 2 things. That's all. To someone else, perfect could be you got to do 100 things. For me, before anyone's perfect in my mind. See, too open and too it's just open for interpretation.
it'll yeah, it's so open, because based on the expectation and the relationship, it could just be very different for two
It
people.
could be very different, yeah. So you always got to say, get more of an idea, and the word impact
uh,
is good
uh,
because they got to be clearer. You can't say you just got a perfect impact. That doesn't make sense to them, right? So, oh well, the impact you have on me, so then you can draw back. So what do I do to create that impact if you need to, right? So, but
uh,
it gives you more clarity, and that's what you want. Like any leader leading people, they need the clarity.
mm.
That's the clarity of feedback.
I love the insight you're giving here in terms of the word impact, the impact it creates. So that's a beautiful word I personally am taking back, and I'm going to do this exercise again and get more insights from them. So, are there any books or any other tools, resources that you would like to recommend our audience to look at so that they can learn more about it?
Yeah, well, you did ask me earlier on about this, and I'm thinking, well, I'm in Singapore. Half the books are in Australia. They're in a storage in Australia because obviously I haven't been home for a while, and I can't even remember half of them to life of me. But I've got a few here I'd like to say. This one, Tough Roads, These Tough People, which
Mm,
is a compilation of different things. I'm a co-author in that. That's why I know that one. I got it here. It's
wow.
current. So that one is not is a pretty good compilation of different people's journeys.
Mm,
So there's a lot of self-leadership ideas and motivational uh, writings in here.
amazing.
Then I have a very good friend in the States who's written two books. I just can't put my hands on the other one. This one is Notes to a Younger Me, and the other one's called I Am. That's Gary Hensel.
Mm,
So they're all little tips.
mm,
Um, so it's just little affirmations. And so it's amazing. You look through that, and some of them might you think, oh yeah. The next minute you go, oh yeah.
mm,
Something will resonate, and that's good. Then if you're more focused on leadership in a corporate sense,
mm.
this is one of the better books that I've read,
Oh, wow.
and
Mm,
and this is how you unlock people's behaviour to
mm,
unleash profits. In other words, how you create more of people employee engagement, etc., etc. And
mm.
I work with these people; they're consultants, and so they're all people who have written several books on that type of
Mm.
topic.
And I know Ross has an amazing podcast, lots of episodes that have been released, and I know it's such a beautiful resource also for you all, audience who's listening to go back to and listen to and to subscribe to the podcast that he's driving. And it has been lovely talking to you, Ross. It's such an amazing experience knowing more about you, knowing more about the work that you're doing, and such beautiful, word of soul inspired leadership. May you continue to drive that excellence for a lot of leaders around.
Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Karina.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you so much, Ross, for this time that you've given to us. Look
my
forward,
pleasure.
look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.